It was a difficult task for Dr. King to always point out inconsistencies, pleading for an end to hypocrisy, calling on the nation to correct its own weaknesses. And from 1955 to 1968, it was the task of this young Martin Luther King Jr. to reach back through the vista of time and join hands with young John R. Lynch, who fought for civil rights in 1875, and with countless African Americans who for centuries had fought against these inconsistencies. For 13 years, King was the world's most eloquent voice to speak for all mankind. And he worked as hard as he spoke for the eradication of slums in urban America, for equal justice under the law, for equality in employment, housing, and educational opportunities, for decency in all human relations, and for the abrogation of the war in Vietnam. Although King was an idealist and a dreamer, there were times he felt the weight of the world upon his shoulders. There were times when he became despondent. There were times when he became discouraged. There were times when he was so depressed and so full of anxiety and anguish, and he even mentioned it as such, and he was not one to complain. At the age of 26, can you imagine, only 26, in Montgomery, Alabama? He had just gotten home from the Montgomery Improvement Association meeting, and it was very late, as it was around midnight. And you know, you can have some strange experiences at midnight. He immediately crawled into the bed to get some rest to keep things going, and immediately the telephone started ringing. He picked it up. On the other end, Dr. King said, there was an ugly voice. That voice said to me, "Nigga, we're tired of you and your mess now. And if you aren't in this town in 3 days, we're going to blow your brains out and blow up your house." King said he had heard these things before, but for some reason that night it got to him. He tried to go to sleep, but he couldn't sleep. Then he got up and went to the kitchen and started warming some coffee, thinking that coffee would give him a little relief. He pulled back on the philosophies and theologies that he had just studied in the universities, but nothing didn't come there. He started thinking about his wife and a beautiful baby who had been born just about a month earlier, and he thought about how they could be taken away from him and he could be taken away from them. And he got to the point that he couldn't take it any longer. He was weak. Something said to him, "You can't call on Daddy now. He's up in Atlanta, 175 miles away. You can't even call on Mama now. You've got to call on that something and that person that your daddy used to tell you about, that power that can make a way out of no way." Dr. King said he bowed down over that cup of coffee. That he prayed a prayer, he prayed out loud that night.
Go ahead, Darby.
He said, "Lord, I'm down here trying to do what's right. I think I'm right. I think the cause that we represent is right. But Lord, I must confess that I'm weak now. I'm faltering now. I'm losing my courage." And he said that very moment, he heard an inner voice saying to him, "Martin Luther, stand up for righteousness. Stand up for justice. Stand up for truth. Lord, I'll be with you even until the end of the world." Yes, God was with him, but he still had to face some hard times. He still had to face great difficulties, major opposition and unwarranted disparagement. King was so often misunderstood, so often considered in the wrong, so often battered by the winds of persecution. It was so much that King publicly confessed, and I quote, he said, "Sometimes I feel discouraged. I felt discouraged in Chicago. As I move through Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama, I feel discouraged. Living every day under the threat of death, I feel discouraged sometimes. Living every day under extensive criticism, even from black people, I feel discouraged sometimes."
Good talk, son.
Dr. King kept the faith and was still fighting a good fight. But before his own people and that of the nation could fully understand the meaning of his life and work, the closure of his day was at hand. The departure of his spirit was fast approaching. And you could hear it in his voice on the eve of his death. Listen what he said. You may have heard this 1,000 times. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to Negro must learn to dress more appropriately for work and for leisure, knowing what to wear, how to wear it, when to wear it, and where to wear it. Give off the common sense, health, and also intellectual character. And young people, whether you know it or not, right or wrong, people judge you by the way you dress. The Negro must stop forgetting his friends. Let us remember that all white people are not against us. Many Northern whites and Jews, many of them teenagers and students, and in their early 20s came into the heart of the South to help us, and several of them were brutally murdered and killed. Many of them made unbelievable, unpublished sacrifices and contributions for the advancement of the African Americans. You must remember the initial phase and the origin of the NAACP was founded by white people and Jews. No, we cannot forget our friends. I think Nanny had them words talking about me now in the stage right. She says the average so-called educated Negro will have to come down out of the air. He is too inflated over nothing. Can I say that again? The average so-called educated Negro will have to come down out of the air. He is too inflated over nothing. One of the greatest tragedies of life is that we seldom bridge the gulf between words and action, between saying and doing. We all are schizophrenic as we often divide ourselves against ourselves. On one hand, we proudly profess certain sublime and noble principles. But on the other hand, we steadily practice the very antithesis of those principles. Our lives are characterized by a high blood pressure of creeds and the anemia of deeds. There was a time we talked black pride and the community. There was a time when the preacher lived next door to the janitor, when the lawyer lived next door to the garbage collector, when the doctor lived next door to the brick mason, when the teacher lived next door to the carpenter. Now please, don't miss the truth I'm about to say. Yes, Dr. King fought and died for integration. Yes, he fought and died for economic advancement. Yes, he fought and died for self-betterment, but at the same time, he never meant for us to abandon our community, even if we don't live there. Dr. King told us as black middle class. Here's what he says about us. He said, and I quote, "They have left the stench of the backwaters of the black community and now sailing down the fresh waters of mainstream America, forgetting about their drowning brothers and sisters." In other words, Dr. King is saying, go back to Liberty Hill to interact. Go back to Union Heights and intermingle. Go back to Liberty Park and work together. Go back to Kimball Hill and collaborate. And network. Too often, the educated among us leave and never return. But I understand it's something akin to a mountaintop experience. And you know something dangerous with the mountaintop experience, and that is the desire to stay there. No, you must go back to the valley, to the community, to the neighborhood. Too often, the educated are more concerned with their economic portfolio rather than their social portfolio. How can we embrace the community if we never interact with it? True leaders are never apart from the community. They are simply at the front, and the only business at the front is to inspire by hard work and noble examples, and to challenge the masses to say, come on, come on, come on. And Dante is still right. Show the people the light, and they'll find a way. Our leaders must do better with connectivity. Leaders of the past did so much with so little, and today leaders do so little with so much. There are too many black politicians who do not promote policy to enhance the community. Too many black educators for so many of our youth to be functionally illiterate. Too many black businessmen and women who do not hire our youth. And black preachers, I must challenge you. Just as you build great religious institutions, just as you build great institutions of higher learning, just as you built great banks of the past, you can use the same creativity, the same credentials, the same skills to build business empires to create jobs and employment. And Malcolm X said something a long time ago, it never meant to embarrass black preachers or make them feel bad, but he was trying to help black preachers. And he simply said, and I quote, he said, if black preachers can build black churches, black preachers can build black businesses. And that's not to offend anybody, because we've got the best come down to these young black ministers, we must do better. These young black ministers, they can build mega churches, but what else are they doing with us in terms of the business? Too many of us are still dropping out of high school. Too many of us are still hooked on drugs. Even some of us in our 60s still mess with that stuff. Too many of us are going to prison. Too many of us do not vote. Too many of us are still victims of murder and suicide. Too many fraternities, too many sororities, too many Masonic lodges, too many improvement council for the community to be the shape it is in. Too many of our babies are dying of AIDS. Too many of us are being born to mothers who are poor and unskilled. And if the trend continues, 70% of our black household will be headed by one black unmarried woman, while 70% of all black men will be unemployed. I've talked about black professionals, I talk about myself as an educator, I can do better. But you know, also too many whites and Jews who favor equal rights, but they are ashamed to be called liberals. They see racial discrimination and refuse to open their minds. But it was the liberals who changed America, while the conservatives wanted to maintain the status quo. It was the white liberals who helped usher in equality for the African American and helped to secure the right to vote. It was the white liberal. Somebody needs to tell Tim Scott and Adam West now where they come from. Those who have the right to vote. Oh, my friends, we must do better. And we must move forward because we do not have time, because life is just a minute. Yes. Life is just a minute. Only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon you, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it. But it's up to you to use it. You must suffer if you lose it, give it a count if you abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. So we must move forward to a better community. Too much, as Representative Mackey said, this sacrifice was. Do we not remember stoning the road we trod and bitter the chastening rod? Do we not remember yet what the steady feet have not our weary feet come to the fifth of our Father's side? Do we not remember we have come away with tears have been watered, we have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered? Do we not remember that many who suffered and died for us to move forward to a better community, a better state, a better nation, and a better world? Yes, we must move forward until the community becomes a village, where our children learn how to read before they learn how to dance. Amen. Where our teenagers know the true meaning of respect and manners. Where our adults know how to act responsibly to be examples for adolescents. Where our senior citizens are secure and safe within their own homes. Where education is maximized and drug usage is minimized. When we can vote without being proud and support each other without being envious. Where going to college and the military is a sense of accomplishment, and going to prison is taboo. When we stop majoring in the minor and minoring in the major. We must move forward because one of these days, Community Day will be over. The dark clouds shall roll away. One of these days we shall be able to read our titles clear. Some mansions in the sky. One of these days when the lion and the lamb lie down together, and none shall be afraid.